2 and 1, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back again to The Last Stand. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, and you know my good friend Jay Campbell, and we're very, very glad tonight. We're very honored to be joined by Gary Peter Carlson. You know, Jay has been talking about him the last few weeks. We've been excited to get him on. And with no further ado, Jay, would you please introduce to our audience our very special guest?
Yeah, for sure. Gary and Jeff, what's up, guys? And to the listening audience, of course, you guys, we appreciate you guys. We had a massive audience last night, more than 500 people, pretty much the whole time, right, Jeff? I mean, majority of the time. So again, without you guys, we don't have a show. So again, thank you guys for patronizing us. So real quick before we let Gary just tell us everything, I found out about Gary from a couple people that watch our show. They don't want me to mention their names, so I won't, but they're awesome people. And they said, look, man, you and Jeff are dialed in. You guys are right on the path. There's a guy that you have to get on your show because he can pretty much verify and vouch for almost all the things you're talking. And so then I was sent his videos, and I watched his videos with Carl Lamont Weber, who I'm a very big fan of because I've read his books. His book, The Multiverse, is incredible. And I watched Gary's videos, and, you know, very truthfully, when I first started to watch Gary, I didn't know Gary's backstory, and I was like, what the hell is going on with this dude, right? Because, like, you know, you guys will see in a second, but I started then, you know, just to pay attention and just shut my mouth and watch it. And I was mind blown. So, I mean, with that said, man, Gary, we're really happy to have you here today. And then let me also say, too, Gary has his website, which Jeff is showing you guys right now, icheckyoursoul.com. He has done soul readings for all of us, for all of our inner circle, my wife, Monica, many, many people. And it's pretty startlingly accurate. Would you say that, Jeff? Awesome. I think you're muted. Okay, yeah, I see you. You're muted. Okay, no problem. I thought I lost you or something like that. But yeah, so with
it is very startlingly accurate. Received some information from some other folks, and also found that to be very accurate. So, Gary, you have my undivided attention, my friend.
Absolutely, Gary. Thank you for coming on, brother. How are you?
All right. Hi. Thanks a lot for having me. I really appreciate to be on your show. You want me to start out with my history or what's going on?
Yeah, I think so. Just kind of tell us like how you came upon your gifts and, you know, a little bit, whatever you really want to say about your personal life. And then, you know, we can talk about questions and bullet points. We're going to get a ton of calls. We're going to get a ton of questions and comments from the audience. But yeah, I think your story and then your synopsis of what's going on this crazy, you know, soup bowl of planet Earth right now.
Okay.
And by the way, Jay, we are looking at getting a way to be able to have people call in too. So that might be very helpful. Somebody was telling me about how you can do it through Zoom. So we'll chat about that.
And I spoke to my Zoom rep today. Yeah, we do have a conversation tomorrow. Awesome. Great news.
So Gary, tell us a little bit about your background. Tell us a little bit about how you came upon your gifts, and give us any information that you feel will help our audience understand more about you and what you do.
Okay. I started out when I was a child, maybe about 8 to 10 years old. I ran across hypnosis, and I was reading a little bit about it. And I had an aunt that her whole house is like a library. She's got a bookshelf on every wall. And she was talking about Christmas, and I said, well, I'd like to get a book to learn how to do self-hypnosis. And so I got the book. That was pretty good. I learned a few things. And what was in there was the pendulum. So I tried that.
Wow.
Yeah. It didn't say a lot about it, just said how to do it, and you could ask questions or something. So I tried it, and it swung real good and worked fine. I didn't really know anything. I thought it was just a cool thing that everybody could do. And I think maybe 20% of the people can get the pendulum to swing when they ask questions and stuff.
Gary, on that note, do you know anything about divining rods and what percentage of people can get the divining rods to work for them?
Not really. I tried those L-shaped things that
yes, sir.
Turn. I tried it just a little bit and it works for me, but I never practice with it or don't know how to use them.
Okay. Thank you for that.
I can make them move with questions or go this way or that way and they move, but I didn't work with them at all. I don't really know much.
Well, Gary, Jeff works with them, so maybe you guys can have a conversation off air at various points. Because Jeff, you feel like you.
I might try those and learn about them. But
yeah, maybe I'll send you a set of the ones I make, and you can go from there and see how they work for you. But you use the pendulum. You start off with the pendulum that you got for Christmas. It was working great, and take us on from there.
Okay, and I lost interest with it in a little while. And every few years, I would take it out and try it again, and it would work. And I thought you were just connecting to your subconscious mind. I tried to use it to find missing things, and it didn't work out, so I wasn't too impressed. And then I got more into the spirituality by surfing the internet real heavily, starting around 2006. And by 2010, I joined this weekend conference for David Wilcox. And so I read his free books on his website and looked at his videos and everything, went to the conference. About 80% of it was stuff I already learned on his website, but there was some new things. And I showed him that I could use the pendulum. And he gave me the look like, so what? And walked away like big deal or something. And I was kind of more determined to make something out of it. So within the next few days or so, I asked the pendulum, am I communicating with another entity? And I got yes. And I had never asked that before. And I was all excited. And I go, well, this can go somewhere. And I was reading the Law of One study guide, which is one condensed book of the 5 Law of One books. and I learned a bunch of things, you know, about ascension and higher densities and all that stuff. And I was, so I found out that you have to be positively polarized to make ascension. So I said, well, can I find out if somebody's positively polarized? And I got yes. And I said, this is fantastic. I got to open a website to help humanity.
Awesome.
I didn't know anything.
What a great story, Gary.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about how ascension worked or anything about it. You know, just a little bit I read in the Law of One, and it doesn't explain it as much as I've since learned.
So Gary, how long ago was this, like timeline for you?
2010, I opened my website.
Gotcha.
I decided if I could open it up for $200 or less, I would do it. And I was able to do that, no problem. And shortly, maybe before I opened the website, I said, well, can I find out how much positive they are or how much, you know, how much they got to go to be positively polarized? And me and whoever was answering the pendulum decided we invented the soul score. And I spent like half a day asking all questions and figuring it out. And they decided that it goes from 2 to 69. And like 69 would kind of be God's score. And 2 would be the most evil you could be, like a mass murderer or something. And if you had a soul score of 5 or less, you'd be polarized negative. And if you had a soul score of 51 or higher, you'd be polarized positive. So I started advertising it on the comments of Ben Fulford's weekly blog, and I still do. That was the main help of getting my website to take off, by advertising in his comments. So people were sending me their name and a few other people to get their soul score. And some people would come back and say, well, this guy over here, he helps everybody and he's real nice and he's got a crappy score. And this other guy over here, he's a son of a bitch. Why did he get a good score? And then I would do it again and it would come out different. And I was a little, I didn't like that it wasn't accurate. So I kept working with it. And then eventually, I guess some entities came in to decide to work with me in the higher realms and help me with it and to get accurate scores, or more accurate than it was. And I kept asking spiritual questions like crazy and tried to build up the spiritual knowledge. And I found out that to make ascension, you got to go through a whole cycle of third density, which is the 25,920 years.
Wow.
And after you complete your cycle, then you're qualified for ascension. And you can make it, you can ascend out of cycle with extra help from God, or you can wait until the end of the cycle on your planet and a window opens to make ascension, which is what's supposed to be happening for Earth somewhere between 2025 and 2029. I'm told probably on the second equinox, the ascension window will open and a bunch of people will ascend every day for about 2 months until like the 700 million people that are qualified for ascension will ascend. And
Now, will they disappear from this earth completely, Gary?
That was my question too.
They'll go to, we're in the first realm, they'll be moved to the third realm.
Okay.
So what does that mean, Gary? But
They'll
like,
be able to see us, but we won't be able to see them.
okay,
Gotcha.
that's what I was going to ask. So do they maintain physical form, or do they just become like a plasma ball, like ethereal?
I'm told you still get a physical body.
Interesting.
And you still have the three spatial dimensions, length, height, and width.
Wow.
Fascinating work, Gary, and it's interesting to see how it developed over time.
Yeah. I eventually found out that there's 28 dimensions. And like the first realm that we're in now has dimensions 3 and 4. I'm told that we're in the 4th dimension. And the 4th dimension is a component of consciousness. And we're going to have planetary ascension soon, possibly this year or maybe in the next couple of years. And we're going to move to the 5th dimension. And the 5th dimension is a component of time. And that's in the 4th density, the 2nd realm. So our bodies will get remade and matter and life will be expressed slightly differently. I'm told it's pretty close to the same as we are now.
No, Gary, with regarding to that, because again, if you read like Wilcox's latest book, and I don't care what you think of Wilcox, but yeah, they talk about in a lot of books, obviously, but they talk about the global movement into the next dimension, however you refer to it as. Some people will not go based on their conscious level below integrity, reptilian souls, however you rephrase to them.
Yeah, I'll cover that.
Is that true then? So some of our circle, if we get moved in, do they just like not disappear? Do they die off? Does something bad happen when this global ascension happens?
I'm told they're going to be teleported to another 3rd density planet nearby that's expecting them. And the people that are here with reptilian souls, the elites, their kind of soul, which doesn't have empathy for others, can't go in the 2nd realm. So they'll also be teleported to possibly back to their reptilian planets, where they might not get treated too well.
Wow, that is fascinating.
Yeah, they'll have a bad day if they go back to their reptilian planet.
So Gary, for those of us that are blessed and fortunate and lucky enough to move to the next level, next realm, next density, whatever, we have high karma, above 51 soul score. Do we maintain our current life? Like, are we still, I know you said we stay keeping our body, but do we still have to like, is there currency and all that? Or are we in a totally different like existence?
life will be close to the same. Okay, right now you can divide DNA up into 18 lines or possibly 36 lines. Anyway, half of the lines have empathy for others, and
Right.
they'll go to the second realm, and half of the DNA don't have empathy for others, and it can't go. The part that can go is like mammals, birds, fish, and major sea life. There's an animal group that doesn't exist on Earth right now. And then the plants are flowers, vegetables, trees, and grasses and ferns and herbs, stuff like that. And then the microbes for digestion and decay. And the lines of DNA that won't go are spiders, insects, reptiles, and then like the worms and shellfish. Those are all the animal groups. And then the plants, there's like mushrooms, grains, and weeds, and a plant group that doesn't exist on Earth. And then the microbes for disease and the viruses.
Gary, do you know why those particular plants and microbes and things that aren't going to go, why they're not going to go?
Because they don't have empathy for others.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. The universe is balanced for positive and negative.
Right.
By half the souls have empathy for others, and half the souls do not have empathy for others.
Gotcha.
And when they don't have empathy for others, they're more prone to evil and, doing things for themselves, controlling, trying to own everything and all stuff like that.
Gary, kind of out of left field, but I can see some people saying that, in particular, the mushroom, which a lot of people have used, they think to help their spirituality, that they would be very surprised that the mushroom is not going to ascend. Any thoughts on that?
So mushrooms and fungus, their DNA doesn't have empathy for others. Now, if before we go, the scientists could somehow change the soul on mushrooms, as like they did with the reptilian soul people, they can put a soul in some kind of mushroom that has empathy for others, and they could keep that strain of mushrooms. You might be able to do that for a certain kind of grain, or maybe even like a lobster.
That's interesting stuff.
So Gary, I have a really good question for you, and I know you kind of answered it with Alfred Lamont Weber, and I know everybody that's watching right now and will be watching after is really interested in this question. And Jeff and I ponder this all the time because as we've been doing this deep dive with David Icke's book, when the reptilians, the actual reptilians, engineered us, whenever it was, I think you said it was like 25 to 30,000 years ago, did they actually instill? And by the way, Gary, Jeff needs to send you his books, his PDF books, because he's really big on the Elo humans and the reptilian, the reptilian DNA. Did they institute or insert their DNA into the left brain, the bicameral brain, and that's how we have, or some of us have reptilian souls? Or, I mean, can you explain that a little bit as far as what you know?
Okay, I don't know exactly how they did it, but they started about 18,000 years ago. If they took a human egg and fertilized it and put it into a reptilian female, if they have them, or a reptilian person, and had the young, then the young would come out human but have the reptilian soul. And they made a few beings like that, and whatever soul the mother has, the children get a soul from that group. So if the mother has a reptilian soul, doesn't matter if her husband has one or not, her children will have one. So that's how they keep the line going. That's what staying in the bloodline and all that's all about.
So that makes a lot of sense. And that's why obviously the reptilians, the Dracos went underground to just kind of like be the observer while the humans that their infiltrators were up here, which is really in Hollywood, right? With the show V and They Live and all that. So they're telling us they've been like kind of just like camouflaging it. But one question that I have, because I get this question from a lot of people. So if a person has a father who's a human or some other, aquatic bird, whatever, and the mom is obviously reptilian, so the child comes out reptilian, is there enough positivity in the father's DNA that being could change even though he has a reptilian soul? Is it even possible? Are they always going to be reptilian souled and do negative things?
You're always going to have a reptilian soul, but if you there are, I call it a reptilian, if it doesn't have empathy for others, I call it a low soul.
Right.
So if I use that term later on the soul, that will mean somebody with a reptilian soul.
So there's no way that person can overcome that lack of empathy and that hate.
There are some low soul groups that are positive in the universe. I think it's like 10 to 30%, depending on whether it's a reptilian, an insect person, or a spider person. Those three have the low souls.
Interesting.
So when you're talking about the spiders, you're talking about like a spider hominid type of a being, right? Not like a 8-legged spider that crawls around in the corner.
No, it'll have spider DNA and some spider characteristics, but it'll probably generally have the star formation, 2 legs, 2 arms, and a head.
Interesting. So a being that looks human and from all outward appearances is human can still very much have a reptilian soul if it came from a mother that has a reptilian soul.
It will have if it came from a mother with a reptilian. It's not the DNA we're talking about here. It's just a soul.
Right. Amazing.
What I'm told is DNA with empathy for others and DNA without empathy for others don't mix. You can't have a mammal reptilian hybrid.
Wow.
And this stuff they're saying we got a reptilian brain, I'm told that that's wrong.
Jeff, that's why they do all the underground experimentation. And that's why in the book that you and I read, what was the book that we just read about how the aliens book from the Great White Brotherhood, and why they continue to experiment and do all of these mutations and chimeras and all of this stuff, because that's what they're trying to do, Gary, right? They're trying to figure out a way to have both.
Yeah, I think each kind of DNA has some kind of different polarity in there, and it refuses to mix.
Wow.
I think you can take like one gene from one group and put it in the other, but you can't like mix the DNA. It won't work.
Wow.
Well, here's an interesting question. Christine asked, I don't know enough about genetics to know if it's a legitimate question or not. She says, what about fraternal twins? Can one of them be reptilian and the other not be? No. Okay.
Whatever soul the mother has, the children.
That's right. So it's all about the mother's soul. Yeah. So Gary, it sounds like we need to start looking. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. We have a little bit of a delay. So it sounds like we need to start looking just beyond outward appearance and start getting to know the souls of people, just like we've always been told we can't judge a book by the cover.
Well, that's kind of where David Icke goes wrong. He's still putting out that the elites are reptilian human hybrids, but I don't see any reptilian features on anybody. No one has a tail or horns or reptilian skin or different ears or anything. They're all human just like us. They just have a different soul.
That's interesting.
And I'm claiming that they're in a separate group from us, and they can tell each other apart from us. They know that they're different, and they know who it is in their group and who isn't.
So Gary, I remember you saying that, which is fascinating. I told Jeff that. I talked to our inner circle. We were talking about that. So how do they know? So I'll give you a situation and you tell me. So if Jeff and I are out together and I walk into a room and it's a big meeting room how do the reptilian soul beings know each other? Is it telepathy? I mean, how do they know?
You know, I'm not really sure on this, but what I think it is, they can listen to how the person talks and acts, and they can figure it out that way.
Wow.
Interesting. So, Gary, if a person does have a reptilian soul, is there any possibility that they can act benevolently at all?
Yes, positively, they could be a good guy, and I think 6% of them are.
I like that.
Of people on Earth with reptilian souls don't want any part of the evil that's going on by them, and they want to be isolated from it.
And by the way, that's exactly what Shane told me in my first podcast with him about the special projects people that have been let out.
I'll give you some examples.
Please do.
Years ago, there was this exercise guru named Jack LaLanne.
Yeah,
Yes.
of course.
I get that he had a reptilian soul, and he was a total good guy. And a guy that's common in the news, and he's in the news lately, is Jerome Corsi.
Yeah, Jerome Corsi.
I get that he has a reptilian soul, and he's on the good side. I think his soul score might be in the high 30s zone, you know, so he's not like polarized positive or anything.
Well, Gary, I want you to keep telling your story, but we might as well ask it because you just brought up Jerome Corsi, and there's obviously a big debate right now amongst our followers, and then also in the truth and the awareness community about the good, the benevolence or the evil of Donald Trump. Now, before I ask you yes or no, because I know you've already claimed that he has a reptilian soul, I would like you to discuss in a way that everyone here can understand it as best as you can, that, because you and I obviously talked about this off air, and Jeff and I have been talking about this for weeks now, but that Trump is playing the role of the good guy right now, correct?
Right. He's trying to be the guy that's going to drain the swamp and do something good for humanity and be the best president ever and have everybody to love him. And he basically wants, I think he secretly wants to do a few good things and then have all the people be on his side and keep appointing other people with reptilian souls to all the positions and strengthening the reptilian souls controlling everything. And he just wants everybody to think that he's a good guy, and for that, as far as he knows, hardly anybody knows that they have reptilian souls. That's like the elephant in the living room, as far as I'm concerned. And other people aren't following my information. They listen to me and think about it, but they won't put it out or say it to anybody else. And I need it to get out. I want everybody to understand the people that are ruling us aren't human. They have human bodies, but they have a reptilian soul. And as long as they're in power, life's going to be crap for us. They want to control and own everything. I get that 1 out of 6,000 people has a reptilian soul, but they got 80% of the money.
Yeah. And the military, everything.
About 70% of the countries have people with reptilian souls in there, and usually they're controlling all the governments in those countries. They don't always have a leader that has a reptilian soul, but pretty much across the world they do now. All the major European countries have a reptilian soul leader.
For sure.
I can't think of their names, but the one for England, Germany.
Theresa May, Merkel, what's Macron in France? I mean, look what's happening in France right now. They're rioting in the streets, and then the military won't even support Macron.
Right.
Yeah.
You can tell if you look over Trump's life, you can put it together that he has a reptilian soul.
There's no question, Gary.
He went bankrupt, 6 times or something?
Exactly.
He's a billionaire,
He never
Nobody
actually,
without connections from the elites that run the
Right.
central banks
right.
would be
Right.
able to do that.
Yeah, I actually challenge anyone to read the book, The Art of the Deal, and actually read the book front to back, and you will definitely see a pattern that every time Donald Trump bankrupted a company or got into trouble, miraculously, he ended up on top. And that's your dead giveaway, right, Gary, that these guys are being, in power and supporting one another.
Right. And he's got himself in charge of all them beauty pageants.
Right.
I don't know what to say about that, but that's a hard spot to get.
Jeff met Donald Trump and he said he was overwhelmed. The guy was like so amazingly charismatic and passionate. And I've heard that too, and I've never met him. But I mean, everyone who's ever met him comes away like, that guy's amazing.
I wonder how you'd feel if you lived with him for 2 weeks, where you're around him all day long, eventually the stuff would come out.
Right, right. And, just a little bit on Donald Trump, the bankruptcies and all of that, if Donald Trump has addressed that and said that he's taking advantage of the laws as
Right.
they are and using, leveraging the bankruptcy laws, and obviously, he's, paying taxes. So you do both and you take advantage of them when you're in business. But do you think that someone that, and those are obviously part of the reptilian system, those type of things.
Absolutely.
But can people that don't have a reptilian soul still take advantage of some things that are fixtures and are laws within a reptilian system? And with that, if I'm not a reptilian soul and I'm a businessman and I use bankruptcy laws to my advantage, do I risk pulling can a person without a reptilian soul become reptilian by practicing reptilian ways?
Good question.
I mean, a person with a soul like ours can certainly become evil and polarized negative. And if you work for those people and get real close to them and do all their evil deeds for them, you're of course going to become negative or very negative. And some people, that's like selling your soul for money and power.
Right.
And a lot of people do it. The sad part about it is a lot of those people are Jewish, and it gives the Jewish people a real bad name.
That's an interesting point.
41% of the people with reptilian souls are Ashkenazi Jews.
Yeah. And, like Jay said, I did meet Donald Trump. I spent about 15 minutes with him. I found him to be very charming and, very personable. And I voted for Donald Trump. I was, a person that got pulled in by it. And I'm at the place now where I'm reevaluating. And I think whether you love Donald Trump or whether you hate Donald Trump, it's time to take another look at Donald Trump and try to understand what's going on. And, there was a lot of us like you and me and Jay that were leaving this. Well, I'll say me and Jay in particular. I don't know enough about you, Gary, that we were leaving the political system altogether. We were done. And here comes Donald Trump saying things we wanted to hear, saying things that we wanted to believe. So we came back into the political system. So Trump is either a genius and a brilliant leader that's going to help try to bring back some American democracy, or he's a brilliant,
he's a Trojan horse,
a brilliant Trojan horse. So I think we all need to keep our eyes on Mr. Trump, and I think we all need to keep an open mind, not be, I love him, he couldn't do anything wrong, or I hate him, he can't do anything right.
Well, Gary, before you say anything, I just want to clarify my stance. I am 100% officially off the Donald Trump train. I'm not clarifying anything. I have read and researched and put two and two together, and I'm totally okay with Jeff not being fully off the Donald Trump train. I know he's leaning that way. I do want to say something, though, and just shout out to Heidi. I love you, Heidi. I've been reading some of your stuff. I know you did an awesome show the other night. I will actually say right here, based on what Gary is saying, based on what Shane has told us, based on what David Icke is decoding, if it's a script and this is a simulated reality, then Donald Trump is playing the role of the good guy in a world of duality and reverse polarity. That's what we're in right now. So yes, he was the guy that rescued, quote unquote, all of us truthers, awareness people, whatever you want to call them, from the cabal. But at the end of the day, if Gary's right, and I agree that I believe that he is, the reptilian soul beings control the ownership of this planet, then all Donald Trump really is like everybody before him, a puppet. Just like Obama came in, hope and change, and now we have Make America Great Again. It's always something that they want us to believe. And so you're right, they suck us in. It's brilliant. They have very high intellects.
Right.
Well, let me say this. First of all, any of us who says something bad about Donald Trump or goes against him does not mean in any way that we prefer Hillary Clinton or we wish she got president.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Good point, Gary.
Hate them both, you know. If you hate one, doesn't mean you like the other.
Right. And I think we do need to be very careful.
As far as Donald Trump playing a game on us to where he's going to act like everybody's against him and he's trying to save the people and he's fighting all these other guys. And, you know, that some of that may be true. If he gets all these higher up people in the deep state and he gets them all arrested for being a pedophile, that'll just increase Donald Trump's power. You know, that'll be a bunch of people that are above him that are taken out of the power structure. So he can be doing that just to get more power. The super top guys are probably in Europe, and you don't get to hear who they are. They probably won't be affected. They don't really care if some of those guys are taken out and Donald Trump's more powerful. As long as the reptilians remain control of the earth is probably how they see it.
Right. They don't have empathy. But Gary, question for you though, but do you, and Jeff and I talk about this all the time, do you really see anybody like a Clinton, like Obama, like all these globalists and cabal NWA people? Do you really think any of them are going to get taken down? I mean, I don't.
You know, I think somehow they're going to get taken down.
I hope you're right, Gary.
You know, can we get a Messiah? Maybe. I mean, I'm told that Jesus Christ was a wanderer, so, and he stopped incarnating in the 1700s and finished his mission, so he won't be coming back. But, you know, maybe there could be somebody else or something.
I agree with you, Gary.
It's possible to make a device where you can see people's auras and you can see which people have a reptilian soul and which one have a human soul. And if somebody can mass produce this device and give at least 3% of the people one of these, hopefully it's as simple as a pair of glasses, like in the way they live.
They live.
But one thing needs to be said here. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how fantastic Donald Trump is. It doesn't matter if Donald Trump is everything that Heidi thinks he is and more. Your answers still aren't coming from Washington, D.C.
Right.
And I don't care how great Donald Trump is. He cannot help you ascend in your spirituality. So let's focus on the most important things and let's keep the first things first.
Right.
Well, the other way to get rid of these reptilian people is for Earth to make planetary ascension. Since we'll be going to the second realm, fifth dimension, and the reptilians can't go. So that way we'll get rid of them for sure. And supposedly we're going to get that soon. It'd be much better if we can start getting the reptilians out of power before that and prepare for the planetary ascension. Because when it first happens, you like lose all the services and communication, everything's disrupted. Some people won't have food and water, and it'll be big problems when the changeover first happens. So it's much better if they can pass out free energy devices and tell everybody what's about to happen, you know, or what could happen soon. They could prepare for it, would be, you know. So we want to get the reptilians out of power before planetary ascension if possible. But there's basically like 1 million of them, was what I'm told, 1,010,000. But if you take out like 46,000 of them that that would be the ruling caste among them. And if you take them out, it'd be like cutting the head off and just be left with the lower level workers that won't be able to resume control. And then we can easily make a device and pass it out to all the law enforcement and arrest the rest of them.
So
No,
Jeff,
that's
kind of what
fascinating.
Shane says. Jeff, that's kind of what Shane says. If, you know, in my first podcast, and again, I apologize for you guys that didn't watch the first podcast with him, but he said that the reptilian beings, you know, that were the orchestrators from behind the scenes in the other dimension or wherever Orion, the Orion complex where they come from, they left in 2015. And now it's just their reptilian soul offspring that are here. And he said, you know, he's basically agreeing with you, Gary, that we have the ability to manifest any timeline we want.
I'm told that the people with reptilian souls have broken off with the reptilians.
Yes, exactly.
And they're actually fighting them or something. They want to control Earth for themselves.
That's exactly what Shane said.
The reptilians telling them what to do.
That's exactly what Shane said in the first podcast. If you guys fact check me, please go watch it. It's all over the Decoders of Truth. Just Jay Campbell, the Ruiner, our first podcast, but that's what he said. And I think, Jeff, he kind of wanted to say that to us last night, but he just didn't really want to go down that rabbit hole.
There's a lot of positive ETs that can be helping us or have the ability to help us. What I'm told that they don't understand that what's going on here, that there's a certain group of people with a different soul that are running the planet, and we need to get them out of power. If all the ETs that can help us will learn that, they might help us make the device or do something else to help us achieve this. That could be where we get them out of power through positive ETs helping us also.
So Gary, along with the positive ET message, because this is another question, is QAnon, is it remotely legitimate? Could there be some form of benevolent ETs as part of that? And then some parts of it, obviously, as disinfo in support of Trump? I mean, do you have a read? Or have you asked, you know, your guardians or your positive beings?
Follow that a little bit. And I get straight ahead that Q is people with reptilian souls.
That's what I think too.
Trump, it's all the same group.
That's what I thought too.
They're trying to, we're great, we're doing good, support us, get behind us. We're going to make America great again. We're going to fix the world. Meanwhile, they're not doing anything about environmental destruction or 5G or vaccinations, weather control. They're not stopping any of the bad stuff at all.
I mean, Gary, it's like you said.
Any high-level guy being put in jail either.
Right. It's like you said, the only thing that Trump has done is hired Zionists, high-level banker Zionists into his cabinet position. Yeah.
Everybody he appointed, I get, has a reptilian soul. He's firmly wants reptilians to rule everything. They're trying to make a ruling class that only contains people with the reptilian souls, and everybody else will be worker slaves. And the Ashkenazi Jews will be leading the worker slaves or running that branch of the deal, because, you know, so many of them, you know, they promoted Jews to the top of it.
So Gary, why do the positive beings that you talk to, that you connect with, why do they not come down here and intervene? I always ask that question. Jeff and I ask that question a lot. You know, it's my understanding from my reading and from my research and my work that they will not intervene or interfere in the timeline of Earth beings or human beings, and that they will, you know, they can obviously counsel you, they can communicate with you. Any of us can communicate with a positive being, right? Like you've showed and you talk about if you manifest it. But why will they not literally just come down here and end this darkness?
You know, I guess they're not allowed, and they don't know exactly what to do. You know, what do they come down and do a military takeover and arrest everybody in every government on Earth, or what do they do? You know, I mean, that would work and sort it out.
Gary, what type of information do you need to be able to check somebody's soul in the way that you do so?
I basically just need a name and an email address to send the result to.
And is that something, would you say that you're...
I asked, did you find this soul? Did you get a reading on it? Your soul comes in 3 parts. There's roughly 30% in your body, 30% around your body, and 40% of your soul stays on the soul plane.
Right.
And when you die, you only got 2 choices. You can either stay on Earth the way it is and be a ghost, or you can go to the soul plane and reunite with the other 40% of your soul. And then if you don't want to reincarnate anymore, you can quit. They'll remove you from the soul plane and you can go wherever you want, but you won't get a body and you don't advance. And you can do that for 8 cycles and then come back and make ascension and go to the 5th density, but you'll be at the very bottom. You'll be the lowest guy. You'll be the street sweeper or whatever they have in the lowest position. And usually during those 8 cycles that you're gone, you'll get into mischief and do crazy things, and your soul score will go down and you'll take on a bunch of bad karma. And after the 8 cycles and you come back, you'll say, well, you got to be a negative. you got a real low soul score with all this bad karma. And the soul will say, I don't want to be a negative. I ain't going back then. And then you can stay out up to 27 cycles. And if you don't come back after that and go to the 5th density, your soul will be recycled back into the ether.
So Gary, to become a wanderer.
Yeah, that's good.
So Jeff,
Okay.
so to become a wanderer, which Jeff and I are wanderers, you're a wanderer. There's a lot of people in our inner circle that we're all connected to, obviously.
Jeff's a starseed.
Oh yeah, Jeff's a starseed. You and I are wanderers. So to become a wanderer, do you have to? I mean, explain that. Like, how much good do you have to do in your previous lives?
Well, but there's 2 ways you can become a wanderer, or at 2 points. Basically, you go through your 3rd or 4th density life, depending on which density your planet's in. The 4th density is like a deluxe 3rd density, kind of. But it's better because it doesn't have the evil groups and space around you and all that. Anyway, you make ascension and you go into 5th density, which if you do things normally, as 90-some% will, you advance after 1 cycle. But 3/4 of a cycle into 5th density, if you're in the top 8 in 10,000 people, 10,000 souls spiritually, they'll ask you if you want to be a wanderer. I'll show you which planet you go to back in 3rd density. And you'll have a mission that's like 1.42 cycles long. And when the mission's over, you go to 7th density with 1 of 2 cycles completed. And I supposedly did that one. And that's like about 0.8% of the people do that. 99.2% don't make that. And they graduate from 5th density to 6th density. And then a quarter of a cycle into 6th density, if you're in the top 9 in 1,000, then you're asked again if you want to be a wanderer. And supposedly 2 out of 3 people that are asked refuse it. They don't want to go back to the sorrow and misery of 3rd density. But 1 out of 3, like me and you, accepted it.
Yep.
And
it's because I'm here to help you people.
You go through a 0.97 cycle mission. And when it's over, you go to 7th density with 1 of 2 cycles completed. Get a hero's welcome, position of honor. Be get a lot of attention from the opposite sex. So when we're done with our contract, we'll have it pretty good, supposedly.
So what is the difference then between like you and me and Jeff as a star seed? I mean, a star seed is what are their special skills?
Well, a star seed is just someone who lived on another planet, got qualified for ascension, tried to make ascension out of cycle and didn't do it. And after they tried it for a while and they died in between lives, when they're on the soul plane, they're saying, well, the ascension window don't open on our planet for another 10,000 years or so, but you can go to Earth for one life, and during that life, the ascension window is going to open, and you can make ascension then.
So that's what Jeff is right now?
Right. And
Dude.
part of the deal, is you got to use the natural skills of your soul to help humanity along the way while you're waiting to make ascension.
Seems like he's doing it.
Yeah, and Jeff's doing that pretty good. And
Well, thanks. We're trying our best. Gary, let's say, Gary, out of 100 readings that you do, what percentage of people come up with a reptilian soul, and what can someone do if they write you and you send back to them and say you have a reptilian soul?
Okay. I don't, nobody has wrote me that has a reptilian soul, as far as I know.
Interesting.
I've never had anybody says, let me have a mini soul reading, and they came up a reptilian soul. I've never, they're not interested in me. I'm the enemy.
Interesting.
Well, there you go, though, if they sense things too. So
if you got a reptilian soul, basically stay out of trouble and don't build up any bad karma.
And don't try to manipulate people financially.
Eventually, you got the same rules as us. You got to get polarized positive to make ascension when your cycle's over. Or if you're 5% and under, you can make ascension negative. And I guess a lot of low souls make it negative, but they usually quit being a negative during their first cycle of being a negative, while the person with a soul usually goes right up to 7th density. You can ascend negative until you try to go from 7th to 8th, then you have to turn positive.
Gotcha.
And normally 7th density lasts for 2 cycles, but if you're negative trying to turn positive, you get up to 8 cycles. After 8 cycles, if you don't go positive and make 8th density, your soul gets recycled back into the ether.
Okay. And Gary, if it comes back that you're a wanderer, what's the best course of action for a person who's a wanderer?
Well, that depends on their skill level. If they got a low skill level, like 1 or 1.5, which is like half the wanderers, approximately half the wanderers have a low skill level, is all you really do is lead a good life. And by example of what you do, you help the people around. That's all your real mission is.
If you're a star seed, what should you do?
What?
And if you're a star seed, what should you do?
If you're same thing, if you got a low skill level, lead a good life and teach spirituality by example. And if you got a higher skill level, either a wanderer or a star seed, do what you like and try to do it well to help humanity. I mean, some people can run a website, other people can write a book, some people can do seminars. Some people are real good in researching and writing history. You know, there's all different, or somebody else can do weather. There's a million things you can do to help humanity. Find out what you're good at and what you like. And if you're not sure and you don't have any contact with any higher souls or anything, you can't use the pendulum or do anything, you can do this sway test that's on my Spiritual Truth page. There's actually 3 tests. There's a sway test, an arm test, and a finger test. and they're all the same. You make a statement and you find out if the statement's true or false. The sway test, you just stand up straight with your arms at your side and make a statement like, I have a soul. And you'll feel yourself gently try to lean forward, which means the statement's true. And if you feel yourself gently leaning backwards, then the statement is false.
So Gary, it's similar to muscle testing, correct?
You could go through everything. Am I good at I'm good at history. I'm good. I'm good at fighting. I'm good at this, you know, and you can find out your skills you had in previous lives. And then if you find out you're good, like with working with wood, then you could take that up and see how you get good at it real fast from previous.
Interesting.
So
Hey, Gary,
go ahead, Jeff.
I want to make sure before we wrap up that Gary gets a chance to tell people where's the best place to access his information and how to get a hold of him if people want to get a hold of him.
I only have my website, icheckyoursoul.com. You showed it on there, and there's my email address is in the middle of the page, and there's a phone number at the bottom of my homepage. I take calls.
Perfect.
Anybody that gets a soul report, it also includes to talk to me over the phone from 20 minutes to an hour, depending on how it goes. And
you guys, Gary is extremely gracious with his time. And again, everybody that I know that's done this has been really, it's been, I feel kind of cathartic, but every person that I've spoken to that's got it is like, it's answered a lot of questions for them. Let me ask you another question though about a person or a being. What about an ascender? How is that different from a wanderer or a starseed?
Well, somebody that's qualified for ascension, I guess that's what you mean.
Gotcha.
They're a third density soul that's completed their cycle.
That's my wife, by the way.
The wanderer usually came from the sixth density, and they were in the top 9 out of 1,000. So they were like really somebody's super spiritual special to become a wanderer. So they would naturally be way more positive. They might not be any more skillful than you. They could be a wanderer with just a 1 skill level, and you could be a real intelligent human where you could write a book and they couldn't. But they're going to be more spiritual, more positive probably than you likely will be.
Amazing. That's my wife. I mean, that's exactly what my wife came out as on your score, and I live with her, so I mean, it's kind of similar to who she is. She's an incredibly spiritually aware being, and she's always giving lessons to everybody that she meets.
She was qualified.
I'm sorry?
Your wife came out qualified for ascension. I forgot.
Yep.
Now, Gary, are you able, if someone, let's say they're in a serious relationship, they're thinking about getting married or having a long-term relationship, can they send you the name of the person they're with and get a soul reading on another person, or do you only do it for individuals?
No, I'll do that. If somebody gets a soul report, I'll do all kinds of stuff for them. If they haven't did any of that, I don't take lists on the mini soul reading.
Gotcha.
But if somebody goes ahead and gets a soul report,
thanks, Michelle.
5 free mini soul readings, and they can send more one at a time after that. I'll help them, and they can call me.
Excellent.
Well, I'll help everybody. But
excellent, Gary.
Wants to take a huge amount of my time and doesn't get a soul report or anything, I don't do as much on. Somebody keeps tries to send me long lists and wants to take a bunch of my time for free. I kind of move over to the paying customer a little bit, But
that's more than fair, Gary. That makes perfect sense. I really appreciate you being on with us tonight. Jay, do you have any other questions for Gary as we wrap this up?
No, I mean, it's been an hour, right? I mean, if you want to do, I'm totally open. If you want to let people ask 5 or 6 minutes worth of questions and have Gary respond, I'm good. If not, we can shut it down. I'm good either way. Gary, do you feel like taking a couple quick questions?
Of course, I'd like to.
Absolutely. Well, Aurora asks, can reptilian souls be spiritual people?
Yes, but they're less likely to be.
Okay. And if you have questions, put them in as capital letters, and I will answer those questions. And we'll ask Gary and get his feedback for you. And Gary, while we're waiting for a couple questions, I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
I appreciate your heart. I appreciate your spirit. I know that everybody's not going to agree with everything you say, and that's okay. I feel like you're coming with a pure heart and a pure spirit of service, and we thank you for your work. And this is one that's already been asked. Are all reptilians evil? I think you said not necessarily so, right?
No, they're not.
And have you ever heard of the trogs or spider beings?
Well, I haven't heard of the trogs, but there's all spider beings are rare, but they have groups of them all over our galaxy. You know, they're more rare than insect people or reptilians, but there's still a lot of them. There's probably every 30 or 40 light years, there's a planet of them somewhere. The rarest ones are the people with vegetable DNA.
Interesting.
So Gary, I think we know the answer, but do the reptilian soul, they rule the Catholic Church? They run all the religions, correct?
Right. They started all the religions on Earth and tried to.
Okay.
Yeah, we know that.
Are there any soul positive filmmakers, Gary, that you know of?
Great question.
I don't know names in filmmaking at all. I couldn't.
Okay.
On that.
So Gary, the insight on the rise in autism.
Strictly due to vaccinations.
Yep, 100%.
Okay.
And
Does every reptilian know they're a reptilian, Gary?
Pardon?
Does every person with a reptilian soul know they have a reptilian soul?
No, but they'll eventually they'll know that they're different. They'll know that they're different than the other people. I think most of them didn't know what they were until I started putting it out and the word got out. And
now, Gary, this is a question asked by a guy in Japan, and I know he loves the Japanese culture and the Japanese people, so he's not trying to be rude. He asked, do you know if Japan is considered a dumping ground for people with reptilian souls?
No, supposedly there's no people that live in Japan with reptilian souls.
None in Japan with reptilian souls.
They don't have them there. They don't have them in Russia or Iran either.
Well, it makes sense they don't have them in Russia.
But Japan.
Wait a minute. I got a question about that. How can we have no reptilian soul people in Japan, the land of Godzilla?
I knew you were going to say that.
Well, that country is totally controlled by people with reptilian soul.
I gotcha.
I forget.
Gotcha.
And Fulford covers them that are controlling that country. They lost World War II. They've been totally controlled by this.
Gary, here's a question that's kind of off the cuff. I don't know if this is in your area of expertise, but someone asks, are you able to speak to the planets? Can you tell them a planet has a reptilian soul?
Well, you would basically be saying, does the planet have a soul that doesn't have empathy for others? And the answer is no. When the creation star makes an oversoul, the oversouls ask, do you want to be responsible for matter? If it says yes, then it does first density, helping keep matter made. And if it says no, then the oversoul's in charge of keeping empty space made. And some of the souls go right up the line on space or keeping matter made, but most of them go to second density and start being plants and animals. And the ones without empathy for others has half the choices, and the souls with empathy for others has the other half choices, as I explained earlier in the show.
Interesting. Interesting.
So, Gary, one question about dinosaurs. Are they before reptilians, or did the reptilians create them too?
Well, I think that dinosaurs actually have bird DNA, And
Right.
so they have empathy for others, the dinosaurs.
That's powerful. Very, very interesting. Do you have any information that Vietnam was attacked because there was a lot of reptilian souls there?
What I heard in that Vietnam War was there was some evil spider beings coming through portals in Cambodia. And part of the war was fighting those spider beings trying to come through portals. Supposedly,
That's amazing stuff.
a lot of people in the past or whatever. And supposedly the people dealing with that were mind wiped and trying to, some of that information has come out. I don't know exactly how true it is.
So Gary, is every war then in the last 500-600 years really just elites fighting over land, fighting over
Billionaires getting more assets.
right?
Yeah, that's the truth, isn't it?
If we took out all the people with reptilian souls completely out of power, there probably would be hardly ever have a war. Probably pretty much never.
Gary, here's a question. Do you think that the planet Saturn or the moon has anything to do with empowering people with reptilian souls?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I know about that. The rings of Saturn are made in a certain way, so it's like a playing record, and
Right.
they put energy through the rings.
Yep.
And they send a signal, and then our moon amplifies the signal and
Yep.
sends it to Earth, and the signal cuts away part of our perception of reality.
Right.
Like
Right.
without
Amazing stuff.
you might be able to kind of see the outlines of beings in the higher realms that are around us, but that moon signal cuts that out, so we can see a much narrower span of reality than what we could see without the moon signal. Supposedly, if you set a few bombs off in the rings of Saturn and disrupt their pattern, then that would stop the moon signal.
So Gary, how much do you agree with David Icke and how much do you disagree? I think you agree with the majority of what he says, but you disagree with
Vast
something.
majority, yes. What he doesn't say is, are the elites, are they a separate group from us? Do they know that they're one of them? He probably thinks they're human reptilian hybrids and
Right.
they come from certain families, but he doesn't say anything about what soul they have. He doesn't understand that part.
Well, certainly a fascinating.
Separate group.
Yeah, it sounds like Jay is pointing out that you may take different roads to get there, but it sounds like you and Mr. Reich and certainly Jay and I have a lot of the same beliefs and convictions. And one thing we know for sure is that we really don't know for sure, but it's sure a lot of fun trying to figure it out.
Right. If you talk to a bunch of people like me, they'll have conflicting views on certain topics. And it's, you got to try to figure out for yourself who's right or wrong. And is the person lying, or do they just got bad information, or are they seeing it wrong? You got to listen to both people and try to use some common sense and logic to figure out who's likely right.
Absolutely, Gary. Once again, thanks so much for being on. Your information is fascinating. Please go to icheckyoursoul.com. Get Gary to give you a soul check or a soul reading. He'll talk about your karmic debt as well. I don't know exactly what you call it, Gary. Karmic footprint. It's fascinating stuff. And Jay has one more question. Close it out.
One more great question for Gary, because I see Mary Newman has asked this question, and I've always wondered this about myself, because if you know anyone that has a special needs child, mentally retarded, however you phrase them, they are like balls of just pure spiritual bliss. It's like having a piece of God next to you. Are they? So her question specifically is, are they chosen that way by God, Gary, when they come into this, incarnation? I mean, what is?
They got dealt the body like that because they got bad karma to discharge from previous lives, more than likely.
Interesting.
And some of these people that are like that, and other people with health problems, when we make planetary ascension, all those health problems are going to be cured and they're going to be back to full health.
So when someone comes into the earth, because people will say this all the time, you know, oh, he's born a poor child in Bangladesh with no arms and one eye and no, you know, no legs. That normally is a result of karma from a previous incarnation, correct?
Right, yeah. In order for something bad to happen to you, you have to have bad karma to discharge.
And you always had a choice, right? Like you chose bad things, and that's what that was the result of.
Yeah. If you built up a bunch of bad karma and you're told on the soul plane, you got 4 lives to discharge this bad karma, and they'll give you a choice of maybe 12 different lives to choose from that'll all discharge different amounts of that karma. You pick one of those, and eventually, if you don't acquire any more bad karma, you'll get rid of it in those 4 lives. And then you'll start having good lives again. The good karma, you save a bunch of your good karma. And when you're on the soul plane and you get to choose from different lives to pick, you spend your good karma on that. You know, if you pick the very best life of the choices, it might cost you all your good karma. And if you pick a lesser life, you might be able to save half your good karma for a later life or whatever. But that's
Well, certainly
karma is used for.
Certainly fascinating information. C. Merritt says, or Tommy says, mind-blowing stuff. It really is. Gary, we do appreciate you for being here with us tonight. Jay, thank you so much for bringing Gary to my attention. It's certainly been a fascinating night. And Jay, please tell everybody where they can get a hold of you for your work and your information as we close things out.
Yeah, for sure. And again, Gary, my heart's out to you, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing for humanity. And thank you guys for watching us and supporting Gary, because I know a lot of you guys have been supporting Gary. So it's awesome. And we're very appreciative. Tomorrow, if you know anyone in the military, active law enforcement, or fire people, so anyone in service personnel around the world, that's quote unquote nice to the United States, I'm going to do the most amazing giveaway tomorrow. So it's going to start tomorrow at noon. So just check my social media. You can find me at TRT Expert on Twitter and Jay Campbell TRT, I think, on Facebook, or you can email me at contact@trtrevolution.com. That's the easiest way to get to me right away. But just be on the lookout tomorrow, because I'm going to do some amazing stuff for people that serve us, that serve our country.
Excellent. Gentlemen, stay here just 1 second so I can say goodbye to you. All of you in the chat room, I salute you for being here seeking after truth. Remember to unindoctrinate yourself, guide your own spirit, be your own guru, master your own ascension. And we are the last generation of real humans. Let's get it together and let's get busy, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you again on tomorrow. Gary, Jay, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, thanking you for being with us and wishing you all love and light.
Happy holidays, folks. See you next Monday.